So the role I play on Private Practice is of Dr. Amelia Shepard, and she is a neurosurgeon who's highly successful and very brilliant, and has this very responsible job. And she is an addict. She's suffering from the disease of addiction, and in the season that we're talking about, she goes from being sober to falling off the wagon and developing a prescription pain pill addiction that gets very severe. And eventually there's an intervention, and she ends up going to rehab.
And so what do you think, what do you hope audiences take away from watching Amelia's storyline unfold?
I would hope that when audiences watch this storyline similarly, they'll realize that addiction can strike anyone. And Amelia is this very successful person. She's a brilliant neurosurgeon, and she is doing her job pretty well, even while she is struggling with her addiction. And so seeing that somebody who looks like they have all of their ducks in a row can also be in the grips of this disease is important for audiences to understand. One of the other things that's important about Amelia's particular addiction is that she is addicted to a prescription medication. And I think a lot of people think that drugs are street drugs and those are the bad drugs and prescription medications are okay. But what we see in Amelia's arc is that you can abuse prescription medication. So yeah, I mean, for a long time, she's hiding her addiction and she's struggling with it and kind of sober and then white knuckling and then going out and using but kind of keeping herself together and keeping her friends at bay. They can't quite tell what's going on, and eventually the addiction catches up with her and she's no longer able to function. Her life becomes unmanageable, and eventually it results in the death of her boyfriend, who she loves very much, and a deep rock bottom for her. When I first got the role, that Amelia, the character of Amelia, was a former drug addict. She was a drug addict. She had been using when she was a teenager, and she had gotten sober young because she had OD'd. And so she had gotten sober and then gone to medical school. So when I first came on the show, I was playing her as a sober addict. So someone who wasn't using at the time, but who had all of the struggles and mental health issues that somebody who is an addict suffers from. I actually got in touch with a good friend of mine named Jamie Carpenter, who is a drug counselor, an addiction specialist, and we went over every single script that came out and went through the very technical aspects of each of the drugs that were being used, and we really wanted to make sure that we were doing an accurate portrayal and that it wasn't some kind of a caricature. And we also went over all of the psychological motivations and where someone would be to be feeling this way and how they would feel in an intervention. And it was really, really helpful talking to him and several other addicts, and they were really generous to share their stories with me. I think so often in the media, drug addicts, drug abusers are portrayed in a way that almost is a kind of caricature. And writers and actors often will just kind of focus on the physical mannerisms and not really address the psychological motivations. And both are a huge part of addiction. You know, the person is using, which looks like this, but why are they using? What started the addiction? How are they feeling when they're using, and how are they feeling when they're not using? And what is their relationship to the humans around them? And so I think it's important for people to understand that drug addiction is not just about the physical manifestations of the disease. It's also about the mental health aspect.